Hi guys, we are having a serious heat wave in Kigali at the moment. We are limping towards the end of the long dry season, which basically means 3 months without any rain. And even for Rwanda, this has been a kind of a hot season. It's usually not quite as bad as this, but everything's covered in dust. It's a losing battle to keep the dust out of the house and to stay hydrated. But today I'm just going to have a little look, an initial look at this lovely action here. My friend dropped it off yesterday. She's got a piano in her home, and the piano was her mother's, and her mother brought it, I think, from Belgium, and she bought it in the 1980s. Now, it's an unbranded piano. I think it's all one piano, but you know, maybe it's more than one piano put together, as sometimes used to happen. I think it is a single piano, but there's no maker's mark in there. I think we found a serial number, but I don't think that we found a brand. So it could be a cottage piano, it could be, you know, a sort of a repurposed piano, don't know. To me, my initial gut response was that it was maybe a 1930s piano, but the key tops are plastic, which is kind of indicative of post-Second World War, so maybe a mid-40s piano. It could be older. I mean, it could have had the key tops replaced. I don't know. I think it's a late 30s to sort of mid 40s piano. It looks like a sort of a pub piano. Her mother apparently got it from a family who had kids, and brought it out here. And over the years, it hasn't been shown a huge amount of kindness or love. So essentially, I'm going to see if I can get it going. I went over to visit my friend the other day, and we did to the keys what I did to my piano the other day, where you take up all of the keys from the key bed and use a little bit of soft wax to just lubricate the pins, the balance rail pins and the key pins, and just make sure that they go up and down, because there were a few slow returners and a few non-strikers. So I've marked with an X the ones that aren't striking properly, and now I'm just going to have a little look through those, see if I can see what the problem is. I suspect it's not all one problem. I suspect it's got a few little issues going on. So we're going to have a little look, and then we're going to see if we need to order any parts, because her mum is coming from Belgium in a few months, so she can bring any parts that we need. Okay, so I've just brought it out onto the porch because natural light is a bit easier to see by than the fluorescent light in the house. And we've also got Jazz. And Jazz is an expert in pianos, and he's going to be helping me out today. All right, so first off, I can see a few little issues. She did have some mice at one point, and this is mouse damage. Pianos are very susceptible to mice. I've opened them up before and found entire nests inside. And if mice get into your piano, they will chew away your hammers, they will chew away your keys, and they will collect up all of your bridle straps to make their nest. So yeah, mice are something you really don't want in your piano. Jazz is willing to help out with the mouse problem. Right, so something else that I noticed is that our little hammer straps here, cord is broken on some of them, so we're going to have to find an alternative to that, get some more, replace it. These hooks just hook into them, and it just helps to guide the hammer back in a nice straight line. The hammers are pretty warm, but not, you know, not unplayable. So if we can get it all working, I might just steam those out a little bit. I can see a few damaged springs. Yeah, those springs ain't as bouncy as they used to be. The bridle straps have not yet disintegrated. You tend to see disintegration at about 50 years. It can happen before that, but generally if the bridle straps are not sort of rotting away, it's usually under 50 years old, at least. That's not a scientific fact. That's just a general rule of thumb from what I've seen so far. So it might be a younger piano than I'm giving it credit for. Ah, yeah, the mice have had a little go at these ones. Thankfully, they haven't chewed all the way through them. Okay, so there's a fascinating issue going on in here. That one there. So I don't know if you can see it from here, but that jack there belongs to this key here. And so it should be facing up like that, but instead it's gone across onto the other key. So I need to open that up. So you can see there's two jacks. The one pressing up at the back belongs to this key, and the one in front of it belongs to the one next to it. That's not supposed to happen. So I'm going to open that up and find out whether or not the jack has done that because it's actually broken off, or whether, you know, maybe just the flange pin has fallen out or something. I don't know. I mean, for the most part, it's not disastrous. You know, technically it's working. When they stick forward like that and don't return, it's not actually a technical problem. It's just because it's out of the piano. The hammers are coming a little far forward and they're just getting stuck on top of the dampers. If it was in the piano, that would smack against the string and return. So it's only because it's out of the piano that it's doing that. So that's not something to be worried about in itself. Those keys might have other problems, but that's not one of them. But, you know, I mean, technically speaking, it's working. So let's just make it work a bit better. So yeah, if you can see down inside, just down along here, you can see it's a bit of a spaghetti bowl of little pieces of wire, which indicates that a lot of the hammer cords have broken or snapped off. So that's mostly, I think, what we're going to be focusing on. I have a feeling I am going to replace the springs, just because if I've got to take all of the hammers apart, I'm going to give it a really good clean. I'm going to try and fix the cords down in the down in there, and if I need to take it apart to do that anyway, I might as well do springs whilst I'm at it, just to give it a bit of extra bounce. And just get all the dust off everything. We have got another little problem that I noticed is we've got some really wobbly hammers, so that definitely shouldn't be happening. That is often indicative of flange pins coming out. If you put the flash on and you stare very, very squinty-eyed between the keys, you sometimes see a tiny little piece of metal, and that's the flange pin working its way out, and it will eventually fall out. That can sometimes cause this, but I've had a little look and I couldn't see any obvious flange pins coming out, so I'll know more when I take all of this apart and have a proper look. But that can cause the wobble. But also there's a little screw that keeps the hammer in place, and sometimes just tightening that screw will tighten it up and make it stick like it should do. So yeah, we've got a bit of work to do. See what else we find when we open it up. Okay guys, so I'm going to take a little bit of a look at the bass. I'm going to go bass, midsection, treble. And what I've learned over the years is have envelopes handy, because it used to be that I used to just take a section apart. I used to take the whole thing apart and I put everything in piles, but inevitably halfway through I'd accidentally put the screw for one of them, like the hammer screw for one of them, in a different pile, or I'd end up putting all of the sort of the damper screws in one pot, just picking them out at the end to put them back in. Now yes, technically speaking, you know, all of the damper screws will be the same size, all of the hammer screws will be the same size, but I guarantee you that after like 40, 50 years of sitting in the same piano, they've become very, very kind of worn into their holes. And you know, technically you can swap the screws around because they're all the same, but in reality it's so much faster just to put the same screw back in the same hole that it came out of. So there are three parts to the hammer. There's the whip-in, there's the hammer and the damper, and I put each of those into an envelope with the screws in it and the number of the hammer on there, so that when I come to put everything back, I know exactly which order they go in. And that just makes life a lot easier. Also, you want really long-handled screwdrivers, because getting in to get those screws out is pretty tough. And also you want a trusty pencil and a pencil sharpener, because you want to make sort of notes on the pieces, like, you know, a tick if you fixed it or a cross if you found another problem, without permanently marking the piano. So you can just rub that off after. Now this is interesting. So, I mean, the pieces are pretty worn. They're kind of, you know, it's an older piano. But then in here, at the back of this hammer butt, on the hinge, we can see that that is a very, very shiny little washer on there. And it almost looks too shiny. It looks at odds with the rest of the pieces. So that makes me think that perhaps my gut instinct is correct, that this is an older 30s piano and that somebody's done a little bit of refurbishment and possibly recapped the keys. I mean, it could still be, you know, post-Second World War easy, but I don't know. Yeah, the springs are completely done on this. There is no bounce and no spring in those springs. I feel like we're going to be replacing those. So I just put this new spring in just to see, and there we go. It's hitting back. So yeah, we're going to be replacing the springs. We found an old spider's nest. Long defunct, I think. Bless them. Spiders do like to live in unused pianos. Haha, I just swept the spider's web off and there's a number 2 on there. So it looks like somebody before me has already done what I'm now doing. So again, it makes me think that this has been refurbished to some degree in the past. So I just removed a hammer and this little bit of whipping fell out. That's what we were looking at before, that was sideways across the one next to it. So it doesn't look like it's been badly broken, so we should just be able to glue it back together. And another one's just fallen out. Yeah. It's interesting because it doesn't look like the springs have actually been glued in, and it almost doesn't look like these have ever been glued in. So I don't know if they were like saving money on glue or something, but see what we can do with that later.